Bone Horde, I almost said Bone Hard. Bone Horde is a...
Bone Hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's my name.
That's my trucker name. By Brew Battle. Welcome to the Precon Life podcast, where we solved the pregame Rule Zero talk. We just don't have them. Instead, we level up basic Magic the Gathering pre-constructed decks in a competitive league setting. Everyone starts on a level playing field with an unaltered precon. Each player brews a budget upgrade path to level up their deck over a 10-week season in a quest to earn the most wins. Take it and break it on a budget. I'm Clutchness.
I'm Grumpy Chris.
And I'm Saki Juicebox.
Welcome to the podcast. Pass priority.
Here we are, week 4. Only 6 weeks to go, and I'm not doing so good. How about you guys?
Better than I did earlier in the season. Happy with that. How about you, Brant?
Well, it looks like we've both got one dub under the belt. I won a game week 3. Looks like you got a win this last game. That's pretty exciting. How'd that go?
It went pretty well. It was a fairly fast game. I was playing against a guy running the Warhammer 40k Necron deck, and he's running Imhotep as the main commander. Basically, he had a Priest of the Vault out and created a loop where he was bringing in artifact creatures, sacrificing them, and bringing them back in a loop, creating infinite amounts of ping damage. The problem is I had a Blood Artist on the board, which ostensibly allowed me to gain life while he tried to ping me to death.
There was some confusion with how the timing and the combo went down and all that, and he graciously gave you the win.
Exactly. Pretty much.
Hey, you're on the board. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and he's taking it as a learning experience in his Jolly John way, so he was, taking it good natured. And
He's a good
he was
guy.
He was the one that
guy.
blocked me from winning with casting Darkness after doing nothing the entire game and blocking my win.
The game before?
Week, on the game before.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a friendly, fun rivalry going now, but we've been memeing each other back and forth on that. Yep.
Hey, so what was your MVP that helped you that game?
Oh, well, obviously that was Blood Artist. And I've seen this combo happen before, actually, where someone tried to ping death someone that had a Blood Artist out. And
so Blood Artist MVP, because if the other person tries to do a combo, this might stop them or kill them if they don't notice it.
And the deck actually has 2 vampires that actually do that. There is a 4 CMC, the Falcon Wrath Noble. It's 3 and a black, flying 2/2, and it does the same thing. It's when the noble or another creature dies, target player loses a life and you gain life. So it's basically the Blood Artist for 2 more mana.
Yeah, with flying.
Yeah. And of course, the other MVPs being the ones that I had previously named as MVP, Call of the Ring, and...
Oh, you added that week 2.
Right.
After the week 2 game. Yeah.
Call of the Ring, and of course the thing that came with the deck that everybody just groans when you put it on the battlefield, Charismatic Conqueror.
That guy?
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, he is hated everywhere.
Where is he?
He's not added.
He comes with the deck?
He comes with the deck, yes. I wouldn't have been able to afford him. He's like $11 right now.
This guy I groan every time because he ends up causing problems.
He becomes problematic, especially when people really want to create a lot of treasures or bounce a lot of artifacts.
That came in your deck, and I'm playing a Breya deck that's pure artifacts and creatures.
Well, and there are a couple of people in the Precon League this season that are running artifact-heavy recursion decks. So I think that would serve me well.
And
there's Breya.
Yeah, and the Imhotep,
the Rebecca and Silas. That's a very artifact-heavy recursive deck. And then the Hobbits, because I was playing against the Hobbit food deck. And of course, what does that make? Artifact foods.
Yep.
All over the place. So he actually made me quite a few vampires.
He's adding vampires, I heard, into his deck.
Oh, absolutely. Because some of the best life damage payoffs are vampires.
Yeah, he actually changed the name of his deck.
Oh, really?
If you look at it.
The Vampire Hobbits.
It's Vampire Hobbits now.
Yep. He's probably going to go after the same ones that I went after. Oh no, he totally didn't. That's interesting. So he didn't. He added Blood Artist and the Noble that we just talked about. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I noticed up here that the Urza's Iron Alliance deck, that he, first week he's running Urza Chief Artificer. Yeah, now, like you said, he's switched to Silas Rebek.
And that is an amazing combo because Rebek gives you protection, your creature's protection from so many different casting costs. He got so many hits in that people just couldn't block.
Well, I thought about adding Rebek to my deck every week this season, except for the first two, because I had the slots full. But since the first 2 weeks, so 10 cards worth, it's been on the cut list and just barely didn't make the 5 cards for the week. Is it really that?
It's seductively powerful, yeah, because if you have a 0, 1, 2, 3, and a 5, what are people going to hit you with?
Right.
I mean, there are very few. It gives you a lot of opportunities to hit people, especially if you are doing commander damage and you want an unblockable Rebek or an unblockable Silas swinging in for 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Rebek gives the artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control. I probably won't have a 0 drop because I only have 1.
Tokens.
But, oh, yeah, true. Oh, tokens.
The tokens
yeah,
that Breya creates. Yeah.
Good call. And I'll probably be at risk from 6-drop destruction spells, but those are probably going to be board wipes or something that's choose one, destroy all, whatever. And, protection isn't going to help against that, but it would help against blocking, right? So wouldn't that work? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've considered it, but it costs 1 white and 3 other.
I played him in my Shurkai deck, and he was house. He did a lot of work when he was out.
All right, well, maybe different artifacts. Okay, yeah. So it looks like your deck is starting to roll. Walk us through what kind of cool things is it doing now?
Well, it's starting to rev up on the card draw and the potential of creating demons because I've tried to lower the mana curve a little bit, add a few more draw options, and last week added a few spicy things like the Drana and Linvala and the Holy Frazzle Cannon, which I just freaking love. But anyway, this week, so for my cuts, I'll go through real quick. The Vampire Cutthroat, I added him the first week and realized that once I added Call to the Ring, I could give anything Skulk, and I have lots of 1/1 lifelink vampires. So he was the least sad to lose. So Village Rites, the black instant to, in addition to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. I'm replacing it with another draw engine. And then Order of Sacred Dusk. I've talked about it before, and it's just so top heavy at 8 CMC. I know it's got Convoke and it gives things Exalted, but there's just so much more I could do with the space in the deck. I may move her back in later if I find that I do need a big bruiser. But let's go to my ads. These ads are as per Grumpy Chris. And he pointed out all of these. Of course, I had Conjurer's Mandolin ready. That's my first ad. It's an artifact equipment, a 1 and a white. Equipped creatures get +1/+1 and have vigilance. When the equipped creature attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a card that shares a creature type with the creature from among them and put that in your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. And it's an equip 1. So that's pretty good for any white tribal deck. It lets you dig 6 deep. It gets a card in your hand. So I think getting that out, just start filling up my hand.
Yeah, I thought that was probably going to be a good ad. I was debating, there are so many 2 casting cost, 1 to equip equipments that are just good.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if this was better or just, what do you call it? Memory?
The Mask of Memory.
Mask of Memory. Draws you 2 cards. You discard 1.
And that fills up my graveyard, so a good consideration.
Mask of Memory. That was one I ran with Rog Arden, right? That was a good card, yeah. That drew me a lot of cards.
It comes in a bunch of precons. It's like 19 cents. It's 2 colorless, 1 to equip. But this is when the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player versus the Conjurer's Mantle, which is whenever the creature attacks. So I can attach the Conjurer's Mantle on a 1/1 that I'm trying to get to die, it becomes a 2/2. I get the demon mark on it. I get a
That's a
card
good
off
point.
that. And then
An
I can
attack
counter
trigger
it.
is so much better than a
Yeah.
on damage trigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about
But
Fire of Heroes.
Pyre of Heroes is also really great. It's basically a sacrifice tutor. One, I need sacrifice. I need the ability to sacrifice things when I want them to die. And this is 2 colorless and tap to sacrifice a creature, and search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with a sacrificed creature and has converted mana cost equal to 1 plus that creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library, activate this only anytime you would cast a sorcery. That's so nice, because there are several vampires that I would like to be able to pluck out of the deck depending on the circumstances. Obviously, the cards that go infinite with Exquisite Blood are probably going to be my primary targets. Also, late in game, going after some of the vampires that cause everybody else to sacrifice creatures.
Well, it's reusable. It's
reusable.
Reusable to tap, sacrifice a creature, and then search. Yeah, so CMC +1.
I mean, it reminds me a little bit of Fiddlebender of being able to, but it's instead of sacrificing, it's sacrificing a creature.
Sacrifice a creature instead of sacrifice an artifact.
It's like a tribal blood pot kind of a thing.
You were thinking tutors, so was I.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And I've already got one vampire tutor in there, so having another one, that's awesome. And it just kind of builds in intensity as I can get the demon counters on more vampires. And then the third one is Patriarch's Bidding with the badass werewolf art. It's 3 colorless, 2 black. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature type cards of a type chosen that way from their graveyard to the battlefield. This will help me more than it will the average Joe, just because of the number of tribal vampires in the deck. It will, however, affect people like the Necron deck that has definitely a theme, or the dinosaur deck that we have.
Yeah.
Or Jeff. Yeah, it could be an issue. So I didn't actually think about that.
Am I able to choose artifact as a creature type?
No.
Nope.
I didn't think so, because they count as an artifact and a creature, like enchantment creatures.
Right.
Right.
I think it's the difference between like super type and subtype, but I'm not actually sure.
So I would have to choose mirror or something. Basically, it's the subtype always.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. So more than likely, everybody's going to get some value out of that.
I remember playing this in Lathril and choosing Elf, and that thing being awesome. And for $2.92, it put in some work.
Right.
I think that even though other people are going to get value out of it, you're the only deck that I know of that's deliberately trying to sacrifice its creatures. I think you're probably going to get more out of it.
I think so too. And I like it better than Living Death for that reason, that I will get more payoff than most of the other people, because, vampires.
Right. Okay. I think that's a good ad. Brant, how did your games go?
I thought I had it, man. So I am playing Invent Superiority. It's a precon from Commander 2016, Breya Ethereum Shaper. And so my commander is 1 red, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 white. She's a legendary artifact creature, subtype human. When Breya comes into play, you get 2 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. And then she has another ability that you can spend 2 and sack 2 artifacts. She counts as an artifact. And then choose one. She does 3 damage to target player, or I gain 5 life. And then the one I was using quite a bit was target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. And she's a 4/4. But I was playing in a pod, like we were saying earlier, with somebody playing a Blink deck. And it's the Phantom Premonition Precon, but he swapped his commanders out to a creature with a background. And so he's running Abdel, Adrian, Gorian's Ward, and Candlekeep Sage. Commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Wow, that's really good. He drew a lot of cards. And his commander, this guy's a 4/4, and I could target him with Breya, because I was using Breya for -4/-4 quite a bit. But he has an ETB effect. When Abdel enters the battlefield, you can exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until Abdel leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 soldier for each one that you've exiled this way. So basically, he's doing newfangled Brago 2.0. I'll play this Oblivion Ring. When it enters the battlefield, I get an ETB. I'll target my commander. That exiles my commander. When he leaves play, I get Leonin Relic Warder back into play. It has an ETB. That ETB is going to target Oblivion Ring. When Oblivion Ring leaves the battlefield, I get Abdel Adrian back into play. When he comes into play, I get an ETB. I'll go ahead and exile the Relic Warder and get a 1/1 soldier token. And then when it leaves, it targets my commander. And then he gets a card each time. Lots of times. He was just trying to get that combo off, and I shut him down twice. I've got Breya on the stack. And so what I was doing is sacrificing Mirror, sacrificing my Thopters, anything I could to try to interrupt his combo on cast. So let's say he recast his commander, then I would use Breya's ability on the stack, kill his other creature that he's going to target with his commander's ETB, and then his commander comes in and doesn't really have anything cool to do. And then he brought that creature back to his hand from the graveyard somehow with magic, and then recast it, so I had to kill his commander in response before the cast went off for that creature he brought back. I stopped him a couple of times. I mean, it was just nonstop. And with the amount of cards, he was always able to get things back. Now, my deck's been rolling. Right out of the box, the Invent Superiority deck has an average non-land CMC of 3.52. And I've been working hard to bring that down, just so where I can get more than one spell off per turn. And so with these ads this week, it's going to bring it down to a nice smooth, yeah, with a V, smooth CMC of 3.0. And for Precon League, pretty good, right? I had a budget of $5.35 for this week, and I'm definitely going to do all 5 cards because I've got a long list of things I want to put in. I'll be lowering the curve extra low this time, but I do have some other cards coming along later in the pipeline for future weeks, things that'll probably raise my curve back up a bit, but I'm really trying to stack 2 colorless spells. Like if it has CMC 2 or Tribute Mage, for example, 1 blue and 2, I want that because the main heart of this deck is built around Ashnod's Altar, where I'm sacking things. That was the first thing I added. $4.55 well spent for 5th edition. 3 colorless artifact. Sack a creature, get 2 colorless. So I'm trying to get as many 2-drops as I can in here to be able to do that. And if they're 3s, I'm going to use things like Foundry Inspector that reduce the casting cost. I've got 3 spells like that in the deck so far. 3 creatures like that reduce my artifacts. And then Nim Death Mantle is huge in this deck, right? Being able to sack something to Ashnod's Altar, and then the creature hits the graveyard, and then I spend 4 mana, attach Nims, bring it back, loop it. I've got the Scrap Trawler and all that.
We covered that in the first episode.
Yep. So I was able to pull that stuff off this week, and it went great. I didn't hit a single new ad. So last time I added these 5 cards here, Mystic Forge, Jorah, Mayhem Devil, because it got reprinted in Ravnica Remastered, Trophy Mage for a tutor, and Enthusiastic Mechanaut, my 3rd cost reducer. Those new ads, I didn't hit a single one, but I was able to draw into and use some other tutors to get to my combo pieces. And, the more I can tutor, the better off I am. I think I was playing against Dan one game, and he's like, guys, he's already tutored twice. One of them I did have to go get an answer, but, I'm trying to fill it with ways to get my combo off. Just lots of clocks. I'm going to add answers later on in the season as I see really how people's decks are forming, right? Because right now, some people are still switching commanders and really kind of fine-tuning what they want to do with the deck. And so once I see that, then I can start adding a little more meta-specific answers. But Muddle the Mixture does count as an answer. It got reprinted in Ravnica Remastered, and so I scooped that up. 62 cents market price on TCG Player. But, 2 blue, that's kind of tough. But 2 blue, counter target instant or sorcery spell. I had 2 blue every game I've played. So, knock on wood, everything should be good. But the big ability I'm looking for is that transmute, 2 blue and 1, to be able to pitch this card, discard it, and then go get a 2-drop from my deck. So, like I said a moment ago, Nim Death Mantle costs 2, and that's something I need. I'm also going to need ways to find 3-drops, right? Like I was saying, I need Ashnod's Altar. These are huge for me. So, going back here to what I'm adding this week, Tribute Mage, go get a 2-drop. Tribute Mage is 1 blue, 2 other. So if I sack, say, a Thopter to Ashnod's Altar, that gives me my 2 colorless, I only have to tap down one actual colored mana pip to be able to cast this. And when it ETBs, I can search my library for an artifact card with a CMC 2. Reveal that card, put it in my hand, shuffle. So imagine this. I have a Thopter out. I have Ashnods. I sack the Thopter to the Ashnods, get 2, tap down a blue like a land, play Tribute Mage, go get Nim Deathmantle, then sack the Tribute Mage to get my 2 colorless back so I can cast the 2-drop I just went and searched for. So I'm trying to find some ways to really just, once I go get it and reveal it, it needs to come into play. Because once everybody sees what I have, it's game over for me. This game, I was at 20 life before anybody else was under 40. They only hit me. Ketonius is in first place. And with this last win, he's got 3 games under his belt. Right, he's 3-1 now. And I was down to 20 life. They were at 40, 40, and 41. And it was pretty brutal. Everybody was just expecting me to combo off. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to go faster. And so another way that I'm going to be able to push this through is with my great value brand, store brand, Silence Effects. Now, Silence is more than $8 on TCG Player. So I needed some budget version, right? The Kirkland's brand. So I found Mandate of Peace, which was just something I discovered in a Precon a previous season that came with it, and Flame Scroll Celebrant. And it's not really so much the Flame Scroll Celebrant front of the card that I'm putting this in here for. It's really the back. And so Mandate of Peace is an instant. It's a white card, 1 white, 1 other. And it says, cast this only during combat. It has saved my ass before when somebody's swinging out for lethal. But that's not really what it's in here for. It's really in here for the second ability that says, your opponents can't cast spells this turn. And then it ends the combat phase, kind of like Split Second. It says, remove all attackers and blockers from the combat. Exile all spells and abilities from the stack, including this spell. So, for example, one of the seasons I played it, Sake, I think I played this against you, where you swung out with Winota and we're going to get a bunch of on-attack triggers, and then I played that and it wiped the stack, right?
I believe that's correct, yeah.
And so, that
was a great card. I've had it before. It's really, for Precon, it's great because most people don't expect you to have a silence in your hand.
Not in Precon League. Right. Because they would have noticed if you put an $8 card on the board.
Yeah.
On our Miro board that you see here on the screen. For those of you watching. So this 32 cents, I get a silence effect. So here's the idea. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn, play whatever, and then say, all right, well, I guess I'll go to combat. I have no combat. Before combat is over, I'd like to cast Mandate of Peace and then end the combat phase right then and there. But for the rest of the turn, my opponents can't cast spells. Now, if they have interaction, like the way that the Blink player shut me down with his well-timed Dovin's Veto, I would have won the game. I had 11,000 tokens, but they didn't have haste. I couldn't do anything with them because he countered my last combo piece. But this, will eat some removal. They're going to have to counter it. If somebody has a Dovin's Veto, they're going to have to blow it during my combat phase and stop this. And then after that, I'm home free. So then I can drop Ashnod's Altar, Nim Deathmantle, and just do my loops. Get infinite mana, Breya over and over, and sack her over and over, and do 3 damage to everybody over and over and over. Now, Flame Scroll Celebrant, I think this card's cool. Flame Scroll Celebrant, when you flip this guy over, Revel in Silence. It's an instant. 2 white to cast. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities this turn. Exile Revel in Silence. So it's not as good as, the $8 Silence, because this one costs 2 white. And you can't recur it over and over with Breach or anything, but I'm not going to cast that again anyway. I just need to cast it once. But 2 ways to push through my combo. Basically, this one I can silence people my first main phase. If I use Mandate of Peace, I'm just going to have to cast that during combat and then attempt to win on my second main phase. What do you guys think?
I really like Flame Scroll Celebrant / what was the name of the other spell on the other side? It's like Sit Down and Listen or something. Revel in Silence.
Sit down and listen. That should be a card.
Sit down and listen is the
Sit down and shut up.
Flavor text, yeah. Sit down and shut up.
Oh, it does say sit down and listen as flavor text. I didn't catch that.
Yeah. I think that's really a great card. I don't know that I love the other one. What was it?
Mandate of Peace.
I mean, I see what you're trying to do there. I guess it does. It also kind of acts. It also acts as a fog. Yeah, I guess that's got its place. This is definitely an attacky format, and the ability to just shut down a combat phase is pretty darn useful for 2 mana. That's also a silence. Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good one
For 32 cents.
32 cents.
Yeah, 14 cents for the other one.
Yeah, 14 cents for the other one, and it's actually like the other side isn't bad either.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah, whenever an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, Flamescroll Celebrant deals 1 damage to that player. That's not terrible.
That's not terrible.
There are a lot of activated abilities in Commander.
If you crack,
in particular, is loaded with them. That's going to really hurt me.
You could crack a food and take a point.
Yeah.
Here's what I thought was really cool about these. They give me options, both cards. So Mandate of Peace has saved my ass so many times in the past in this league where they go to swing and they have on attack triggers. It's not when they deal combat damage to a player or when blocks. It's just on swing. And there's not much you can really do to interact on the stack in this type of league, especially when they attack with a lot of creatures and they all get that on attack trigger. So with this, you just end that stack. And then, all right, everybody, you see what they're going to do next turn. So you start politicking, right? Hey, you just saw what they're going to do, and they're going to do it again next turn, but they're going to have even more creatures. So what are you guys going to do about it? And then usually that turns the Eye of Sauron toward that player, and the armies start attacking. So this one, it works as a way to push through my combo and also a way to shut down somebody else and kind of redirect attention to them. And the Flame Scroll could potentially... I haven't looked through everybody's deck, but like you said, Grumpy Chris, is that, whenever an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, they take a point of damage. Well, if they have a loop that involves that, for example,
they can't go off.
They can't go off, like my Nim Death Mantle, right? That's not a mana ability. And so, yeah, this would stop other players. So both of these cards stop my opponents, and they both allow me to push through my combo. And they cost 2 mana, and Muddle the Mixture allows me to transmute for a 2-drop.
Those are pretty good ads.
Yep.
Thanks. So Sword of the Meek, that's something you told me, one of you told me to put in the deck. It arrived. I ordered it on TCG Player, 25 cents plus shipping. But it's a 2-drop artifact equipment. The creature gets +1/+2. Meh, who cares? Equip 2. Meh, who cares? Whenever a 1/1 creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may return Sword of the Meek from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then you attach the sword to that creature. And there's actually some loops with this. Time Sieve is the one that's going in. Oops, did I say that out loud? Spoilers.
Everybody knew that was coming.
It has to go in the deck, right? I already have Thopter Foundry, so I need to get the sword in there right now. But it's not going to be a dead card, even though I don't have the Time Sieve in yet. Because I do have Ashnod's Altar with Thopter Foundry. And so you can check here, if you're curious how you find these combos, you can check out EDH Rec like we do. And, it walks you through it right here. So basically you need the Thopter Foundry on the battlefield, Sword of the Meek on the battlefield, Ashnod's Altar on the battlefield. And you need 1 mana. And then you activate Thopter Foundry, you pay 1 mana, you sack the Sword of the Meek. And that gives you the 1/1 Thopter from the Thopter Foundry. And you gain a life. And then the Thopter enters the battlefield, triggers Sword of the Meek that's in the graveyard, and it brings it back into play equipped to that Thopter. And then you sack the Thopter for 2 mana, and then you repeat it. And you get infinite colorless mana, infinite death triggers, infinite ETB, infinite life gain triggers, but I'm not running that, infinite leave the battlefield, and infinite sack triggers. And since I'm running things that ping, similar to Blood Artist, right? I'm running some couple other cards, but, if I have those out, I'm good to go. But, having infinite colorless mana is pretty good, especially if I have my commander out. But I just thought if I bring in Sword of the Meek now, that'll put together this combo. And then I can get the Time Sieve in next week, and that'll give me another combo, with the Thopter Foundry, Time Sieve, and Sword of the Meek. I wish I could get Cart Clan Ironworks, but that's not going to happen. But anyway, that's the idea for that. But that was something you all recommended, so I thought I may as well add it.
Yeah, that looks like a good ad.
Now, I've slept since the last game, but I can tell you I had 11,000 1/1s.
I was spectating in that game, and you did, in fact, have 11,000 1/1s.
And I lost.
Unfortunately, Kevin took it anyway. I had I had dropped off. I'm not sure what happened to put him in a position to win, but it doesn't take a whole lot for his deck to be in a position to win. It takes literally 5 mana
Mm-hmm.
and his commander on the it doesn't even take 5 mana. It takes like 3 mana and his commander on the battlefield. Abdel goes infinite with a ham sandwich and every other item on the menu.
It does.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, is that he had a well-timed Dovin's Veto that stopped me from winning, and I'm not playing haste. The creatures were just there so I could sack them for mana and do things, but he stopped me, and, then I just basically had to wait a turn. When it comes back around to his turn, he board wipes out my 11,000 creatures. And then it comes to my turn. I redeployed some assets and I got Breya back out. And then we go around the next person and then back to him. And at that point, he had already wiped the board. His commander was in the command zone, but he was able to try to do the things. So he deploys one of the combo pieces and then tries to play the commander. And that's when I minus forward, killed it. He tried it again, killed it. And then pretty much game over, because the third time he just pushed it through. Well-timed Dovin's Veto just stopped me. So I thought I do need counter spells in this deck. Can't counter Dovin's Veto, but it did get me thinking. Things that I'm taking out are really just dead cards. Ancient Excavation, I played it. It's Dimir in 2, and it's an instant that you draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, and then discard a card for each card drawn this way. So you still end up with the same number of cards. It didn't help me. And then Parting Thoughts, you destroy a creature, cool, and you get to draw cards and lose life, but it X's the number of counters on that creature. I've seen some people playing +1/+1 counters, but that's pretty specific. I'll just use my commander.
It's also a sorcery.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that. And then this one, Bone Horde, I almost said Bone Hard. Bone Horde is a... Bone Hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's my name.
That's my trucker name. So it's a 4-drop artifact equipment. It has living weapon, and gives you the germ that it attaches to. And the equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Kind of turns it into a Lurgoyf. That's pretty cool. But the last couple of games, it hasn't been that impressive. As the season's gone on, it's been way less impressive. And the fact that it costs 2 to equip and 4 to cast, I just didn't have 6. When I had 6 mana, I would much rather cast something for 3 that brings something back from my graveyard that costs 3 and play that. And that's what I ended up doing, and this was just a dead card the whole time. I never got to try out this guy because I wanted to, I don't know why, I guess it's the Timmy in me sometimes. It sneaks out from the 90s. But Jor Kadeen, he just kind of reminds me of an old school legend. Jor Kadeen the Prevailer. He's a 5-drop, Boros and 3, legendary creature, human warrior, first strike, 5/4. Seemed like it'd be good just to sit there like, don't attack me. Because I was at 20 and nobody else had taken a single point of damage. They all ganged up on me just because I won the week before. But Metalcraft, you get +3/+0 to all your creatures, as long as you have 3 or more artifacts. That seems pretty good with my Thopters. Hey, my Thopters are 4/1s. Come at me, bro. But I never got to draw it. And I need to cut stuff. And if I can't afford a Bone Horde, I can't afford this dude. Simple as that. And I played this card here, Ancient Excavations. I mean, it didn't really help much. I have other card draw. I added Joyra, way better. And this one is a board wipe that I wanted to play, but I never got to draw into it. It's Phyrexian Rebirth, 2 white, 4, destroy all creatures. It's a sorcery. And then you get to create an XX colorless horror artifact creature. It's an artifact where X is the number of creatures destroyed this way, but it costs 6. And I never really needed to board wipe because there's so many board wipes in this league right now. Have you guys noticed?
No, actually, I haven't. I don't think I've seen. I think I've seen maybe one every game.
Okay. Well, I'm just noticed I don't have to board wipe and somebody else does. And I'm not really going for that because I've realized this deck doesn't need to attack people. I don't need to worry about what they're doing. All I need to do is combo off before I die. So why would I board wipe? I need clocks.
Makes sense.
Yep. So I'd say my MVP, of course, were my combo pieces. And I'd say a couple of them came through pretty strong. Still haven't got to play the Riddlesmith yet. But these type of guys like Mirror Retriever, Workshop Assistant, oh man, they put in work. You can just sack them, bring them back. They bring each other back. It's great. There we go. So that's what I'm looking at. Those 5 are coming out this week. These 5 are going in, and that brings me down to a non-land CMC of a nice even 3.0.
Nice.
What are you working on this week, Chris? How'd your games go? Walk us through it.
Oh, really badly. So far, I've won no games. I feel like I've always been one turn off from winning, or I've run into situations where people won't coordinate. We got Kevin down to I think I talked about it last time.
The Blink player.
The Blink player. We got him down where we could kill him in one turn, and then everybody defected and started fighting each other, and then the Blink player won. But I've got 2, and this last time we all coordinated against the Turbo Fog player who was playing the old Blast from the Past Precon. His stuff is no longer accurate. The commanders he's actually using are the Second Doctor and Layla, Sivatine Warrior. But he's added about 12 fogs to the deck. Everybody in the pod was an aggro deck. We were not going to be able to beat that. And so we decided to kill him before he could get set up. And it didn't feel good. Didn't like it. I don't know the guy real well. And he was pretty salty about it after the game. But we had to kill him because there was no way that we were going to let him get set up and fog us all out. And then what happened was the strongest deck in the pod was the new dinosaur Precon, Velociraptor, which is just absurdly strong. It comes with, I've fought it before, it comes with some absolutely incredible cards. It seems to me like Wizards is power creeping the Precons again. Now that I've seen the lists for Murders at Karlov Manor, the amount of insane cards in them is just, the value on them, or reprint value, is really high. And Velociraptor is also really high. And he managed to get a kill off before anybody else could.
Yeah, aren't they reprinting Toxic Deluge in one of the new commander decks from Murders?
It comes with Toxic Deluge. It comes with Necromancy, Animate Dead, several other cards that are $10 plus.
Necromancy from like Visions, right?
Yeah, the one that is like an Animate Dead, but you can play it as a flash.
I use that in my Jund Degenerate deck. It's not quite CDH, but it's Degenerate.
Yeah, it's one of the best reanimation spells ever made.
Yeah, it's great because you can use it with Protean Hulk.
$14 at one, like $14 before this reprinting. There are a bunch of other great cards in it. Anyway, this is more of a general thing because the other 3 Precons have equally insane reprints in it. Like they're just going to reprint the hell out of some things, which sounds great. I'm really in favor of that. But it does mean that older Precons are even weaker. That if you want to keep up, you really are going to have to buy one of the newer Precons, which is great for their bottom line, but it's not great for deck diversity in a Precon format. But anyway, now that I've gone on that soapbox, I would like to talk about the stuff that I added last week because I didn't actually have my ads in last week. So we can just cover those really quickly. I'm going to talk about what I removed. I'm not going to do a whole lot of reading. I'm assuming that it's going to be up on the screen, or you can just look it up if you're actually interested. The stuff I removed was Valor and Akros, which is a not great anthem. Scavenging Ooze, which is a bit of graveyard hate that gets bigger. It's not terrible, but it's not what I'm trying to do here. Karametra's Favor is an enchantment for 1 green and 1 that it's an aura that'll turn a creature into a mana dork. Selesnya Guildmage is a hybrid Selesnya. It's a creature elf wizard. You can pay 4, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token, or you can pay 4, and creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's sort of a short-term anthem or a really expensive way to create a 1/1, neither of which I really want. I don't know what has made Wizards decide that 4 is the correct price for a 1/1 creature, but they've pretty consistently done it. And you can see it right here in Vitu Ghazi, the City Tree, which is the other thing I cut, which is a land. You can tap it to add colorless mana, or you can pay 2 and Selesnya, tap it. So that's a total of 5 mana right there, and create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. Not good. Not a great rate. I'm not interested.
Man.
I needed a little bit more card draw, and I wanted it to synergize with Derevi. And the best thing that I could come up with was Enclave Cryptologist, which costs 1 blue mana, but you can level it up. If you level it up with 1 blue and 1, it's a creature Merfolk Wizard, and it's a 0/1. You can level it up. If it's level 1 or 2, you can tap it to draw a card and then discard a card. It's a looter. And if you do it again, it's still a looter.
It's like a looter in a riot.
Well played. Next one was, if you do it a third time, you can just tap it and draw a card. Last week, I really wanted to add Beastmaster Ascension, but I hadn't saved up enough yet. Oh, that's another thing about this week. All 5 cards came out to $1.34. So I saved a whole lot of money this week, so I could add some more the next week, which I'll get into. The next thing I added was I needed some way to make my creatures bigger, because almost everything that I'm attacking with is a 1/1. The cheapest thing that I could get that I felt would actually be good was Paladin class, which is another kind of level up card. It's a enchantment. It's a class. It costs 1 white, and you can level it up as well. The first level is spells your opponents cast during your turn cost 1 more to cast. Not a big deal, but as I said before, we have a Turbo Fog player. Making him pay 1 more in combat, maybe he won't realize what's going on and will not leave up enough mana, and I'll manage to get something in.
How does he beat you, though? So he fogs a bunch, so nobody can hit him, but
eventually he is completely free to just use some huge creature, and his commander draws him a lot of cards and prevents you from attacking if you draw cards. So it's essentially he's essentially a pillow fort backed up by Turbo Fog. Okay. But his pillow fort is also a really good card draw engine. So
Okay. Yeah. I gotcha. So this one might help slow that down. So that's nice. And this one, it says that it gains the next level and adds it as an ability. So you still keep this when you level it up to level 2 for 3 mana.
That's right.
Nice.
And then at level 2, creatures I control get +1/+1. That's not a great anthem. 4 mana total for +1/+1 for all my creatures. That's a really not a good rate. But the last one is actually pretty good. If you pay another 5 for level 3, whenever you attack until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +1/+1 for each other attacking creature and gains double strike. This deck makes an absurd number of creatures. Once Derevi gets going, I can easily have 10 creatures on the board, which means if I have Derevi on board and I have 10 creatures, that means I can one-shot a player.
With commander damage?
With commander damage. And Derevi flies.
Double strike.
Double strike, and he's going to get +1/+1. So he's already up to a 3/3, and then he gets +1/+1 for 10 creatures, and I do 26 damage.
That's a good effect, though. So target attacking creature gets +1/+1 for each other attacking creature. So you attack with 10 creatures plus your commander gets +10/+10, and then gains double strike.
Yeah.
GG's.
Yeah, take out 1 player.
Okay.
My mana is not great. The mana is actually really bad. I've only got about 7 sources of green mana. It's actually probably closer to like 9. Okay, the next thing is Armored Scrap Gorger. I'm gonna run through these because I've got 2 weeks of stuff to do, so I'm just gonna burn through them real fast. Armored Scrap Gorger, 1 green and 1 creature, Phyrexian Beast. Armored Scrap Gorger gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 or more oil counters on it, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Whenever Armored Scrap Gorger becomes tapped, exile target card from a graveyard and put an oil counter on Armored Scrap Gorger. So with Derevi on the field, I can eat graveyards like nobody's business. They're just going to go away.
Nom.
Jeff was talking about adding graveyard hate. That's why I'm thinking I need to add Pull from Eternity to be able to get my combo piece.
That's not a bad idea. The next thing is Squirrel's Nest. It's an enchantment aura. Costs 2 green and 1. It's an enchant land, and enchanted land has tap, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. This is just another one of those things that I use with Derevi to pump out attackers. The next one is pretty spicy. Yasharn Implacable Earth is a legendary creature, elemental boar for 2 generic and Selesnya. And he reads, when Yasharn enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic forest card and a basic plains card. Reveal those cards. And you put them onto your hand and then shuffle your library. And this is the important thing. Players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities.
Spicy pig.
Spicy pig.
Breya does not like this at all.
Neither
No.
does Clavelino.
No, we don't like this.
No.
-4, targeting Yasharn.
You cannot.
No, I can't. No. Hey, I was thinking, you know what? You said you needed some like ramp. You should probably swap that for like some straight ramp or something.
Well, he does ramp. In
Okay.
fact, he draws me a basic forest and a basic plains.
You need more card draw. You should take him out and put in some straight card draw.
I'll consider it.
Oh no, this is going to be terrible. So it looks like I will have to start adding answers. Wow.
Okay. So the stuff that I'm removing the next week is Valor and Akros. You can look it up if you want. Hornet's Nest, RR Mutation, Devouring Light, and Hour of Reckoning. And what I'm adding is stuff that just does more that I want. Valor and Akros is just a bad anthem. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. All the creatures are going to come into play in this deck after combat. So it's just never going to do anything. Hornet's Nest is a wall that whenever it's dealt damage, create that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. It's not bad. It's a good wall, but people just won't attack into it, or they'll fly over it, or whatever. Our Mutation, destroy target enchantment, create X 1/1 green sapperling creature tokens, where X is that enchantment's mana value. I would probably keep this if I was adding the gods that are indestructible enchantments. So this may be coming back in later if I add in something like Heliod or something along those lines. So that might be coming back in, but right now I feel it's too narrow. I don't think that anything that I'm worried about is an enchantment right now. Devouring Light is a instant with Convoke. You can exile target attacking or blocking creature. A lot of the stuff I want to remove is not going to be attacking or blocking. Like Abdel Adrian is not going to be attacking or blocking. So that just is not going to be a thing. Hour of Reckoning 4, it's a sorcery, it's a board wipe. You can invoke it, and it just says destroy all non-token creatures. I need my non-token creatures. The token creatures are expendable. The non-token creatures, not so much.
Chris, can I point something out real fast?
Sure.
Valor and Akros has already been removed.
Oh no!
Oh no! Yes.
Oh, busted cheater. Cheater,
You're
pumpkin
right.
eater.
Judge.
You took it
table
out
2.
last week.
Yeah,
You were running
right.
2 copies of that crappy card.
All right.
Okay, I'll have to fix that. Something else has got to come out.
Oh, I know what. Yasharn, Implacable Earth.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Yes,
going anywhere. Especially since I added a card this week to make sure that I get Yisan.
Ah.
I added Neoform, which is
Such a good card.
which is a sorcery, 1 green and 1 blue, and it says as an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1, plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and then shuffle your library.
Okay.
So
you have to sack a 3-drop.
well, it's a good thing that my commander is a 3-drop.
Oh, that is lucky for you. Bad for
And
me.
you can't have Yasharn out.
No, I cannot have Yasharn out and actually do that. So that is a non-bow. But if I already have him out, I don't need to go get him, do I?
Well, that's true. Fair point.
Although the Neoform actually does get a couple of other things in the deck that are pretty useful. It is it also gets Null-Made Shepherd, which is a pretty powerful effect.
Tap 4 untapped creatures you control. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. 2/4 elf for 4. Huh. I don't like that. That destroys artifacts.
Yes.
This is going to get rough.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to combo off fast.
You are. I'm also adding March of Swirling Mist, which is a really weird spell. I really love it. It's 1 blue and X. It's an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. And up to X target creatures phase out. I have used this card before to disrupt combos by removing combo pieces for a turn. And it's also pretty good in response to a board wipe to phase your guys out. It's sort of a poor man's Clever Concealment or Teferi's Protection or any of the other step dodge type spells. It's a good one.
That card's been on the rise lately. It's up to $2.02 now.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I said, I'm regularly 1 turn away from winning the game. And I'm hoping that Beastmaster Ascension will help me with that. Beastmaster Ascension is an enchantment. It costs 1 green and 2. And whenever a creature you control attacks, you can put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as Beastmaster Ascension has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures I control get +5/+5. Yeah, I'm not going to have that much trouble attacking with 7 or more creatures with this deck. Another thing that's going to help me with that is the next card, Imperious Prefect, which is also 1 green and 2. Other elves you control it's a creature elf warrior, it's a 2/2. Other elves you control get +1/+1. Pay green, tap it, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. So again, something that will give me more attackers. And the last one is, like I said, something else. If you can't speed yourself up enough, you can slow down the other guy. So I'm going to use Obscuring Haze, which is an instant for 1 green and 2. This is part of the infamous free spells if you control your commander series. But this one, it actually isn't very good outside of very casual environments. It's just a fog. If you control your commander, a commander, so if I stole somebody's commander, I could still cast this. That's pretty neat. You may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control.
Nice.
Yeah, so all in all, this was a pretty expensive thing. 202 for March of Swirling Mist. Neoform's $104. Beastmaster Ascension's $373. Imperious Prefect is 19 cents. Obscuring Haze is $1.30. But I saved up quite a bit of money last week. And so my stuff this week comes up to $8.31. Hopefully it's powerful enough that I can take a game this season, man. I'm getting salty. I'm getting like I'm salty as the sea right now. I want to win.
Might have to rename yourself from Grumpy Chris to Salty Chris.
Salty Dog, which is a joke that only you and Dan would probably ever get.
Yeah, that's true. Nice. Hey, what was the season you won with? What were your commanders again?
Barakos and Fulcuro.
Yeah, you got a lot of wins that time. I think you're paying for it now with losses.
Yeah, probably so.
You know, once you've won a season, people kind of put you a little higher on their priority list for a while. Somehow Katonius keeps slipping through with his Blink deck.
People haven't really figured out yet that you have to kill the combo player first, and you have to cooperate to do it. You have to. As long as he's allowed to see, 10 cards, he's just going to win the game.
Wow.
You have to kill him before he sees 10 cards. Which means the thing to attack probably isn't Abdel Adrian himself. The thing most likely to attack is Candlekeep Sage. However, it's not like blue has a lot of trouble drawing cards. The important thing is that people actually cooperate to kill him. Because, as I've said before, people in the game that I had with him, I was like, hey, we need to kill the Blink player. We need to kill him. And they immediately started attacking each other. Because they were greedy. And they were greedy because somebody else was open. I can get a hit in.
And get a trigger when I damage a player. I know. I've fallen for that too.
Yeah.
So 10 cards, that's a pretty bold statement, though. If he sees 10 cards, he's going to win. That's bold. After the initial 7 or 8 with draw for turn. Is that what you mean? 10 cards deep from there, so basically 18 deep.
Yeah, 18 deep. He's definitely going to win if he hits 18 deep. As long as, there are a couple of things out there that will limit that. I noticed that the Food and Fellowship player added Containment Priest.
Yeah.
He did mention adding that specifically for a certain Blink deck.
If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Oh, yeah.
Oop. For 2 mana.
Yep. What a deal. I ran that last season. It put in work.
It'll usually get somebody.
30 cents and it shuts them off. I got 30 cents. So we've all put in $15 at this point and then fought against each other. Now we've put in another 5. Some people are saving up, it looks like, or they just haven't updated their Miro yet, but we've all put in $20 worth. If we're looking at the season right now, out of these 12 decks that are competing, the deck that's dominating, the Blink player playing Abdel and Candlekeep Sage is in first place with 3-1. Wow. We've got Dino Smash is in second place. That's what
Dino Smash is in second place. Velociraptor, that deck just wrecks.
That's something that we need to be thinking about. Yeah, Velociraptor. I played against Draconic Destruction here, but with Honsk, Slayer Zealot.
Honsk.
Yeah, he's so Honsk. Each upkeep, he gives one of us 3 walkers. Every time he's given them to me, I've gone off and tried to win the game the next turn. So I don't think he's going to give me any more because that helped me to get to my
Oh, gee.
11,000
Don't give
creatures.
the Ashnod altar player extra creatures.
I was holding Ashnods and Nims in my hand for a long time. And then when he gave me 3 zombies, I said, now is the time. And I went off. And if it wasn't for that well-timed counter, I would have had another dub. But this Draconic Destruction deck is pretty powerful. And he's got a lot of flyers, a lot of big beaters, and he does a whole lot of pyroclasm type effects, 2 damage to all creatures. And, I would have to sack in response for value, but most of the time I was just sacking for colorless mana to Ashnods and got nothing out of it. So I'm curious, Grumpy Chris, what are you going to do about that? Are you just going to try to anthem up really big to where they're bigger than 2/2s?
Get swole.
No, I've decided that I just can't beat Jeff.
Oh, okay. And just hope the wheel speaks and doesn't put you in pods with him very often.
Yeah, it's a mistake to try to make a deck do everything. There are just going to be some decks that you can't beat, and I am not going to be able to beat this version of Draconic Destruction. So I'm just going to hope that I don't end up in that pod. And if I do, I'm going to do my best to not overextend, and then I'm going to lose anyway. But I'm going to play it as best I can.
And politics, surely, to get us to take care of the honks or whatever combo piece he has.
Yeah. Another thing that's really surprised me this season, though, is how poorly Tyranid Swarm is doing. We've had this problem 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
How many times has Tyranid Swarm been played in Precon League? And it's always done really poorly.
It seems like a good idea, but it just doesn't take off.
It's extremely top heavy. Like everything costs a lot of mana. It's a 3-color deck. And it has almost no flying defense. It always dies to flyers.
Oh,
like
is that the issue?
It has some
dying to
huge
flyers?
stuff on the ground. But I have beat the snot out of it just because I have flyers. I think it's got like 1 or 2 creatures in the deck that have reach or that have flying.
I had to kill this Hierophant Bio Titan at least once, and then he brought it back. It costs 2 green and 10, but it costs 2 less for each counter that you remove from creatures that you control. +1/+1 counters. But it has Ward 2, Vigilance, Reach, 12/12. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So that was rough. I had to make Breya huge, block with Breya, and sacrifice her to be able to kill it. And then he brought it back. This thing was problematic. So, I mean, it does have some beaters, but like you said, that is pretty top heavy. at 12 mana with a cost reducer.
All right, that covers our upgrades for this week and kind of a little bit of field. I kind of need to go now.
Right.
That works. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in, checking out this episode, hearing about how we take these Precon decks, tweak them, change the commanders quite often. We make them our own, and hopefully you can get some ideas about what's working with these Precons, which ones are worth upgrading, and which ones you might want to pass on. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out next time. With that, I'll pass priority. If we inspired your deck brewing ideas, help your friends. They might need it. Drop this on your favorite Discord. Tap that untapped like. Then we know you want more budget upgrade paths. This is Precon Life. Pass turn.